Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Wednesday, July 17th, 1 a.m. Mountain Time, 2019. European Union's GPS satellites have been down for 4 days in a mysterious outage. Have you heard about this? Seismicity is quiet, but California is still rumbling. And as we enter the grand solar minimum, as predicted, we would see record flooding in the spring, cold springs, lingering winters, followed by extreme heat, which is now predicted. Keep calm and dab. It's boom time, kids. You're in the right place. Snakes and other critters join flooding tornadoes as Barry's latest threat. Not only that, there's dolphins. Take a look. The Mississippi is bringing a lot more than just water to the Gulf. We know that. It's poison, pollution. They want to tax you for CO2 while agricultural runoff and other toxins that cover the planet run into the oceans and pollute the Gulf. As Tropical Storm Barry continues to weaken and move north, one might think New Orleans and the Gulf of Mexico are past the brunt of the damage. However, the combination of rainfall from Barry, as high as 24 inches as predicted, and continued flooding upstream Mississippi River leaves much of Louisiana and the Gulf still in danger. Why? Well, poisons. The historic flooding of the Mississippi River is bringing unprecedented amounts of fresh water, fertilizers, pesticides, and other waste into the Gulf of Mexico, including dead Mexicans trying to cross that border. The Mississippi River is the second longest in the world and drains 32 states and 2 Canadian provinces, all into the death zone, which is called the Gulf. And that's disgusting. We're not even booming tonight. Just giving you the facts. More than 100 dead and 6 million affected by the cosmic ray fluxing of South Asia, continuing to rise after flooding and landslides ravaged the border region of India and Nepal, leaving tens of thousands displaced due to cosmic ray flux, which we predicted, and they could have predicted. Yes, the masses, the mainstream, the lamestream, they could have been listening to us. It's only going to get worse, and we're only going to continue to predict and report on the facts. Peru, new potato helps farmers weather the frost in the Andes. Yeah. Global warming, what much? Not. 3 women harvesting Winnie potatoes from the trial plots of the Instituto Nacional de Innovación Agraria Experimental Estación de Puno, Peru. That means that they have badass potatoes that have been established and modified. Not genetically, through natural selection. In Spanish, you might call it patamino de orgullo, or however you say that. In English, it translates to national pride. And they got a new potato that holds up in frost and freezing weather. And there's a pile, which you should be planting now so that you can have a pile of your own, like they're going to have in Peru. Major heat wave expected for 2/3 of the U.S., only less than 1/3 of the U.S. showing major heat wave. A dangerous and widespread summer heat wave is expected to barely move through 1/3 of the U.S., where all the crops are planted, that were barely planted due to flooding. How do you think that bodes? Will high temperatures surge into the 90s? Yes. Is that a heat wave? I doubt it. How about the climate crisis of 1936? Did you know that in just this last week, 40 states reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit in 1936? We barely will have 2, maybe 3 states reach that temperature. Did you know that in 1936, at this time, 40 states reached 100 Fahrenheit? And they're telling you it's a heat wave? Yeah. They're full of bullcocky, malarkey. The maximum temperature versus states for all U.S. Historical Climatology Network stations ever recorded has been decreasing since that epic day. Those epic weeks. Yeah, the second week of July 1936 was the hottest week ever recorded, and it was a crisis. Not so much this week, except after the grand solar minimum snows and colds we had, and now the central U.S. states and the Corn Belt, which I'm swirling around, are going to receive excessive heat warnings that are going to tax those fresh planted crops. Hey, did you check out the snow in the middle of summer in Alberta? It's looking pretty deep. We must be burning up. Seismic update, no quakes of note, 5.1 in the Solomon Islands. Now, we do have some activity here in California, north of the Ridge Crest area and nearing the San Andreas, which may be getting people's panties in a bunch. 3.2 Byron, California, normal activity, especially after releasing from that last earthquake. 5.6 in Guam. Don't we own that? We own you. Worldwide volcano news update. No volcanoes of note exploding. Sabancaya to 27,000 feet. Popo puffing. Karaminsk. The Kamchatka. Still brewing. Now let's get back to the European Union's excuse. Satellites have been down for 4 days in mysterious outage. We had a huge outage here in Pagosa Springs. All of our satellites were down the other day. You couldn't even pay with a credit card or a debit card. Had to use cash like the olden days. It's as if we're learning the old ways. Technical incident, quote unquote, puts Europe's GPS system fully offline for days. Days and days that they don't explain in the haze of the maze. A major technical error has caused Europe's satellite navigation system to be fully offline since Friday. With most satellites powering the Galileo system broken, the EU Space Agency has said that it will never admit that cosmic rays or anything that has to do with the sun has anything to do with these craft. Europeans' Galileo system was built to replace the US GPS system, but since the outage, users are automatically being switched back to the old positioning. Is this a setup for the shutdown? The agency said its experts are working to restore operations in the newer systems, which have probably already been fried by the sun. Or the waning magnetosphere. Congressman Brooks, bipartisan panel of scientists confirms humans are not responsible for the past 20,000 years of global warming. This is breaking just days ago, July 11th, 2019, press release, Washington, D.C., Thursday, in a House Science, Space, and Technology Committee hearing on climate change under questioning by Congressman Mo Brooks, Alabama, District 5. 4 members of a bipartisan panel of climate science experts all admitted that humans are in no way responsible for Earth's global warming that has occurred over the past 20,000 years. And if you want any other information, no experimental evidence for the significant anthropogenic climate change. New paper coming out 29th June 2019. We've talked about it. Kapinen and Malmi, we love you! In this paper, they prove that the models used by the IPCC report AR5 fail to calculate the influences of the low cloud cover, which has been proven by Svensmark, which will be increasing due to the increasing cosmic rays. You know you're living the cosmic ray maximum. Are you living the cosmic ray facts? They're right here in this paper, peer-reviewed. That's why the models give very small natural temperature change, leaving a very large change for the contributions of greenhouse gases. In fact, including CO2 in the 0.04% range of all CO2, and totally anomalous, as being the cause of it all. And this is the very reason why the IPCC has to use a very large sensitivity to compensate 2 small natural components, because they're full of shite, as white as this paper. Further, they have to leave out the strong negative feedback due to clouds in order to magnify the sensitivity of you, because you have nothing to do with the climate. But the sun does. In addition, this paper proves that the changes in the low cloud cover fractionally practically control global temperature, which the IPCC does not include at all. Holy sh! They must be frauds. Now, have you seen the lost grizzly? We found it. Check out the video. You're looking at a grizzly bear. Yeah. Picture taken in Wyoming. Well, we saw real grizzlies here the other day. Check it out. I'll show you some more nonsense before we close this up. It's only 10 minutes in, I know. doctors confessing to intentionally diagnosing healthy people with cancer to make money. Now, according to this article, that's misleading. The story is inaccurate. But if you just scroll down here, it's crazy. The story is false, however, when it claims there are multiple instances of doctors diagnosing healthy people with cancer to make money. But yet, Dr. Farid Fatah admitted to prescribing chemotherapy for healthy patients in a scheme to fraudulently bill Medicare and private insurance companies millions of dollars at the federal court hearing where Fatah was sentenced to 45 years in prison. The oncologist said that he was horribly ashamed. Now, on top of that, Dr. Sayed Mohammed, a retired oncologist, admits seeing the trend more than a decade ago. Many of these unscrupulous physicians are like businessmen without a conscience. Like politicians, maybe? The only difference is they have your health and trust in their hands. A very dangerous combination when money is involved and your life. So, to this misleading article, I say it's completely truthful. And there's nothing misleading about it, except they want you to shy away from the facts. You know, some more facts. R. Kelly is ordered hell without bond. Forever! Prosecutors call him an extreme danger to the community because he is. And his money will not pay him out of this one. He's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. Goodbye, scumbag. I hope they sew up your butthole. Because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. First Ebola case in African border metropolis could be a game changer. World Health Organization leader warns. Yeah, it's called death to people as they vomit blood profusely and bleed from their eyeballs. These people. Look at him adjusting his glasses because the blood might be squirting out any moment. Now, Holland covers hundreds of bus stops with plants as gifts to honeybees. Kind of like Oppenheimer Ranch Project. A gift to humanity. Proper prior planning prevents piss-poor performance in this sadistic, pathetic, insane world where you're taxed for plant food and all the pollution gets flowed right to the beaches where you vacation. You're sick. If you're still voting, you're not thinking. New Hubble constant measurements adds to the mystery of the universe expansion rate. You know how we're 3.5 billion years old? Yeah. Guess what? We're wrong. Back in 1924, American astronomer Edwin Hubble announced that he discovered galaxies outside of our Milky Way using his new Hooker telescope perched above LA. Isn't that weird how all the hookers are still in LA? By measuring the distance to these galaxies, he realized the further away the galaxy is, the faster it appears to be receding from us, and so on and so forth. And therein lies the ruse of the entire lie of the 13.6 billion-year-old universe. And within the last decade, we realized that redshift is false, and so on and so forth. And now, coming out, just moments ago, it gets worse. Astronomers have made a new measurement of how fast universes are expanding using an entirely different kind of star than previous endeavors. And the revised measurements, which come from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope, falls in the center of a hotly debated question in astrophysicists that may lead to a new interpretation of the universe's fundamental properties. Now, are you picking up what we're putting down? They're trying to use this Newtonian mechanics nonsense, black holes and dark matter, to explain the 97% they don't understand. And now these new measurements are completely unexplainable. Now, if you go back into our cacophony of videos for the last several years, you will see that this is the main sticking point. That for the last decade, all of astrophysicists, all of cosmology, and all of astronomy, they're all baffled by all the things we find. I mean, it's so baffling. I wonder if our standard model of the universe or solar systems is completely incorrect. I mean, it's only 115 years old. Now, the University of Chicago professor Wendy Friedman and colleagues have a new measurement for the rate of expansion of the modern universe, suggesting the space between galaxies is stretching faster than scientists would expect. Well, that's what we would expect. Friedman is one of several recent studies that point to a nagging discrepancy between modern expansion measurements and the predictions based on the universe that it was more than 13 billion years ago. Ho ho. So, do you know where you are in the universe? I doubt it. Are you preparing for what's coming? I hope you are. Preparewiththeranch.com. Preparewiththeranch.com. Buy Dubin's new book. It's linked below, Climate Revolution. It's an ebook, which means it links you to all of the links you need to link to. You can't get a hard copy. You can relearn old things, though. We're going to be demonetized for this, but enjoy. We love you. It's dab time. Kick back. Learn something. Take a break. Reset. Do a ketamine treatment. Book a therapy session. Learn how to breathe. Heart math. Meditation. Yoga. Stretching. Do it now. Do a dab.
I hope I'm not treading on any toes. So, you see, we spend an awful lot of energy trying to make our lives fit images of what life is or should be, which they could never possibly fit. So, Zen practice is in getting rid of these images. But it's so explosive socially to do that. And it so worries people. They get vertigo, they get dizzy, they don't know which end is up. There was a very interesting dinner party once where a Zen master was present, and there was a geisha girl who served so beautifully and had such style that he suspected she must have some Zen training. And after a while, when she paused to fill his sake cup, he bowed to her and said, "I'd like to give you a present." And she said, "I would be most honored." And he took the iron chopsticks that are used for the hibachi, the charcoal brazier, moving the charcoal around. He picked up a piece of red-hot charcoal and gave it to her. Well, she had very long sleeves on her kimono. She whirled the sleeves round her hands and took the hot charcoal, withdrew to the kitchen, dumped it, and changed her kimono because it was burnt through. Then she came back into the room, and after a suitable interval, she stopped before the Zen master and bowed to him and said, "I would like to give you, sir, a present." And he said, "I would be very much honored." And of course, he was wearing a kimono, something like this. And so she picked up a piece of coal and offered it to him. He immediately produced a cigarette and said, "Thank you, that's just what I needed." Now, you know, in the same way that we have this in our culture, certain people who are comedians, who know how to make jokes and gags in a completely unprepared situation, face them with anything, and they somehow come through. So that is exactly the same thing in a special domain as Zen. Only a master of Zen does this in every life situation. But the important thing is to be able to do this This is the secret. You must remember, you can't make a mistake. Now, that's a very difficult thing to do, because from childhood up, we have had to conform to a certain social game. And if you're going to conform to this game, you can make mistakes or not make mistakes. And so this thing has gone into us all the time. You must do the right thing. There's certain conduct appropriate here, there's certain conduct appropriate there. And that sticks in us and gives us a double self all our lives long, because we never grow up. Now, I only say, if that game begins to bore you, and it begins to trouble you and give you ulcers and all kinds of things, then you raise the problem of getting out of it. And therefore you start to become interested in things like Zen. That is simply a symptom of your growing in a certain direction, where you are tired of playing a certain kind of game. You are as naturally flowing in another direction as if a tree were putting out a new branch. So because you say, oh well, we people are interested in higher things, you see, that depends still on the differentiation of rank between the superior and the inferior people. But when you begin to see through that and grow out of that, you don't think anymore of this superior and inferior classification. You don't think we are spiritual people who attend to higher things as distinct from these morons who are only interested in beer and television. This is simply our particular form of life. Like there are crabs, and there are spiders, and there are sharks, and there are sparrows, and so on. But remember, in the process of growth, the oak is not better than the acorn. Because what does it do? It produces acorns. Or you could say, just like I sometimes love to say, that a chicken is one egg's way of becoming others. So an oak is an acorn's way of becoming other acorns. Where is the point of superiority? The first verse of that poem I just quoted, first verse is, in the landscape of spring there is nothing superior and nothing inferior. The flowering branches are naturally some short, some long.
Be the change you want to see. I've been teaching the facts for 2 years. I will continue to teach them. If you like what I'm teaching, subscribe to the channel. Share this with like-minded people. You have to start somewhere.
You know what occasionally happens on the street when two people are walking down the sidewalk straight at each other, and they both decide to move to the right together, and then to the left together, and they somehow get stuck, and they can't pass each other. Zen teachers will pull just exactly that sort of stunt when going down a path and meet one of their students.
I try to do that every night. I hope you follow us. Be safe. We love you.